and let whosoever wills disbelieve. So the truth, the religion came to the people so clear from Allah, from God. Whoever wills, let him believe. Welcome. Whoever wills and doesn't like to believe in Islam is also free. I tried to quote some quotations from some non-Muslim historians. They talk about, try to refute these ideas that Muslims force other people to become Muslims. He said, there is a certain person by the name of Thomas Arnold, he said, of any organized attempt to force the acceptance of Islam on the non-Muslims or non-Muslim populations, or of any systematic persecution intended to stamp out the Christian religion, we hear nothing. So this is a historian, very great historian, Sir Thomas Arnold. He say that there is nothing, there is no proof that Muslims force non-Muslims or Christians, especially in Europe when there was some sort of fighting between Muslims and non-Muslims, to become Muslims. There is no proof to prove that Muslims force Christians or Jews in these countries to become Muslims. Had the caliphs, the Caliph Hussein means ruler of Muslim country, or the Muslims at the time, had the caliphs chosen to adopt either course of action, they might have swept away Christianity as easily as Ferdinand and Isabella drove Islam out of Spain, or Louis XVI made Protestantism penal in France, or the Jews were kept out of England for 350 years. Basically, he's trying to say that Muslim empire at a certain time, the borders goes from Spain and Portugal up to the borders of China. Many people were under this Islamic empire, Christians and Jews. Had the caliphs, the ruler of these countries, want to swipe out Christianity, because in the West they talk about that, or even Judaism from the Muslim countries, they could have done that. And he gave us an example. He said, as Ferdinand and Isabella drove out Islam of Spain, because Islam was in Spain and Portugal for almost 800 years. There was a great Islamic civilization in Spain and Portugal. It was the greatest civilization in Europe at a certain time. In Spain and Portugal was under Muslim rule for 8 centuries. Yet in that country, you have Christians and you have Jews under the Muslim rule. And yet they live peacefully in that country. But later on, when the Catholic, led by Ferdinand and Isabella, were able to be victorious against the Muslims, they drove out the Muslims from Spain and Portugal, till there was no Muslim in these countries at all. Can you imagine? After this country was a Muslim country, majority are Muslims, mosques everywhere, people speak the Arabic language, yet at a certain time, the Christian, when they have control, or the Catholic, when they have control of Spain, they drove out Muslims from that country. No Muslim was able to stay there. Either you become Catholic, or you be killed, or you run and escape. So had the Caliph or the Muslim rulers would like to do the same with the Christians or Jews under the Muslim rule at that time, in the old days, they could have done that. But they didn't do such a kind of things. There is another non-Muslim, just a testimony. He said, history makes it clear, however, that the legend of fanatical Muslims sweeping through the world and forcing Islam at the point of sword upon conquered races is one of the most fantastically absurd myths that historians have ever repeated. Just the people try to say Muslims force more Muslims to become Muslim, but this is absurd, this is not true, this doesn't work. Now, we talk about these violent actions that happen in different parts of the world and might have been carried out by some Muslims. What's the opinion of the Muslim scholars about these kind of things, like kidnapping, like violent actions against civilians and all this? So Muslim scholars condemn violent actions committed by some Muslim groups, whether kidnapping or killing tourists, like sometimes it happens in the Philippines, violent actions against civilians in different parts, or violent actions in Muslim countries, like these groups which I talk about in Egypt, or in Pakistan, or in Afghanistan. We try to have some sort of differentiation between jihad and terrorism. Differences between jihad and terrorism, we can just signal some of these differences. Jihad is limited to combatants, while terrorism involves indiscriminate killing of civilians. So when we talked before about jihad, you remember we say that